Hello everyone, welcome back to the asynchronous JavaScript series. In the last video, we learned how to fetch the data with the async await and how to make a real world API calls. And today we are going to explore the advanced promise method that is basically powerful tool for handling multiple asynchronous tasks simultaneously, right? By the end of this video, you will understand how Promise.all, Promise.race, and Promise.any and Promise.all settled work. So let's dive into that. So I've created a file that's a advanced promised and it's a advanced promise.html, and I'll post that all the code what I'm doing on the GitHub repo so that you guys can take a reference if you guys get a stuck over there. And this is the basic things I have written here: the HTML, head and title, script, right? I'm going to write inside the script, right? So let's see the first thing, what is promise.all. So promise.all basically runs multiple promises in a parallel and wait for all of them to resolve. And if any one of them is fail, it reject immediately, right? So let's create some promise. So we'll say constant. We'll say promise one, that will be promise dot resolve, and we can say 10, right? And let me copy this because we are going to create some couple of promise. So it's one, and a third. Let's create three. So this will be 20, 30, and this will be a second, and this will be third, right? So we have created three promises here, and now we are going to run promise.all. So we'll say promise dot all, and we are going to pass the promise one, promise two, promise three, and we'll say dot then say result, that will console dot log, say all result, and we'll print the result. And what we're going to do, we'll say catch. If something happen, we'll print the error. So we'll say console dot error, console dot error. Then we can say error in this error. That's it. So this is the promise all, and what it does, it basically run all the promises in a parallel and wait for all of them to resolve. And if any one of them is failed, so we have written three promises, and suppose two will be resolved and three will be resolved. I mean failed. So it will reject immediately all the three promises, right? So let's run it and see what we get. And this is our browser. Inspect that, it's a all result and all promises are fulfilled, right? We got 10, 20, and 30, right? So that is perfect when you want to wait for all the asynchronous tasks to finish before continuing, right? Now suppose you have a three task, and you are fetching a data from the three places, and you wanted to display all of them by doing some um, further processing. I mean, by doing some mathematical calculation or any kind of computation you can do after fetching from three places. And it is necessary to do all it is necessary for doing computation to get all three data. That's where you can use basically, right? So let's switch to the next one, that is the promise dot, right? So promise.race basically return whenever the first promise that settle, whether it resolve or rejected. So let's create some promise. So we'll say constant one, that will be a p1, and then we'll say new promise, and can say resolve, and set timeout. We're going to create a arrow function, right? We'll say resolve, say T1 is done, T1 is done, and then we'll pass the time. That will be 2 seconds. Let's copy this for the second one. This will be T2. So now we are going to run promise. We'll say promise.race. So what it does, it basically call all the promises. It run all the promises, and it basically read return the first promise that settle, right? Whether it resolve or rejected. So what we're going to do, we are going to just add dot then, and we'll say result, and we'll print the message that console log. We'll say race winner. So let's switch to the browser and see what we get here. See, it's a race winner, P1 is done. Whenever you press say race winner, P1 is done, right? So we got, so it is not waiting for the second, or yeah, it is not waiting for the second one. And suppose if the second one is the run out first, either it resolve or reject, it return something, right? So now next thing is we are going to learn that say Promise.any, right? This thing will run here. Say Promise.any. So Promise.any basically return the first promise that fulfill, ignoring rejection, right? So we'll say constant fail one promise dot reject, and we can say fail one, right? And change the second, third one, right? And this will fail. I can say says and promise dot resolve, and this will say says, that's right. And this would be fail to, right? So basically promise.any return the first promise that fulfill, ignoring all the reject. So when we run the promise.any, it will run the first fail one, but it will not it will ignore the rejection, and when it get the success, it will return some output to us, right? So we'll say promise dot any, say fail one success, and we can say two, right? We're going to say dot then result console dot log. We'll say first, and as the result. You can also add the other thing. So we'll say error. Say so error, say error, and this will be. So let's switch to the browser and see what we get it here. See, it's a first fulfilled success, right? So it ignore the promise.any, basically ignore all the rejection, and it only give us the first that basically resolve promise, right? Now the final one we are going to learn, that's a promise dot settled dot all settled, right? All settled. So what we're going to do, we'll say constant a, and that we can say promise dot all, say a done, right? And then we can say constant eb, that will from promise dot set, and say failed, right? And I forgot to add the semicolon, we'll say promise dot settled all the a and then eb, right? And then we are going to say dot then result console dot log all result. So basically promise.all settled, what it does, it basically wait for all the promises to settle regardless of whether they resolve or reject. So suppose you wanted to you're fetching the data from the multiple places at 10 places, and you don't know like how many them will get you success the data successfully, or and how many of them will be failed, right? So that's where you and you but you want to see like which one is failed and which one is giving me a perfect response, right? So that's where you can use the promise.all settled. So let's switch to the browser and see what we get it here. So it's a all result we got. The first one is say fulfilled and the second one is got rejected, right? So we successfully run all the promises, right? And it is basically perfect when you need the status of all the tasks without failing immediately. And that's how you use advanced promise method to handle multiple asynchronous tasks efficiently. So you can use the basically the promise.all to base so the you can run promise.all basically in basically and wait for all of them to resolve, and if any one of them is failed, it will reject immediately. And you run promise.race. So promise.run basically you run the big, because the first whenever the first promise will be settled, it will resolve, right? And when you run promise.any, so whenever the first promise will be whenever like we have created three promises here, right? So whenever the first promise will be resolved, it will return to it will give the output, right? And promise.all settled, it basically work regardless of whether they are resolved or they are rejected. It gives us the status of all the promises, right? So if you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And in the next video, we are going to learn about the classes and module. So I'll see you into the next one. Thank you.